Welcome, everyone. Consider this explainer your initiation, a truly crucial mentorship moment as you begin your journey as new graduate students into humanistic inquiry. For years, you've been taught how to absorb information, how to read the great texts, and how to summarize historical events. But today, the training wheels come off. We're transitioning from the abstract consumption of theory to the deep, real-world responsibilities of your future work. You're no longer just students. You're stepping into the role of researchers, and in the humanities, that role carries profound weight.
Here's our roadmap for today's masterclass. 1. Beyond the neutral observer. 2. The power of positionality. 3. Steps to ethical reflexivity. 4. The Hannah Arendt case. And 5. Your responsibility as researchers.
You are officially entering the academic conversation. But as the source text from Dr. Arya reminds us, humanistic research isn't just about acquiring some technical skill you can check off a list. It's an engaged, deeply personal interaction with the world. You're entering into an ethical dialogue. Your choices, what you study, how you frame it, and how you communicate it, well, they have real consequences now.
Section 1. Beyond the neutral observer. Okay, so I need you to leave behind everything you might have assumed about how traditional research works. We're actually moving between two completely distinct eras of thought here. On the one hand, we have the old positivist model. Rooted heavily in the 19th century, this model basically told us that a researcher should be a completely neutral, detached observer. Think of it like being a human measuring tape, just out there seeking universal truths. But on the other hand, that's where you live now, the contemporary post-positivist framework. In the humanities today, we recognize that knowledge is situated. It's actively shaped by power, by language, and crucially, by the researcher themselves. We don't just ask what a text means anymore. We ask how it was constructed, by whom, and under what conditions.
So let me pose this directly to you. Is it actually possible to be a completely neutral observer? I really want you to pause and critically examine this assumption that you can ever be fully detached from your work. The source material is absolutely unequivocal here. In humanistic inquiry, complete neutrality is neither possible nor desirable. You bring your whole entire self to the text, and pretending otherwise, well, that isn't objective, it's just a blind spot.
Section 2. The power of positionality.
Right, so if a true blank slate neutrality is impossible, we've got to understand what takes its place, and that is positionality. This is a framework you are going to use every single day of your academic career. Think of positionality as the deep awareness of your own subjectivity. It's acknowledging exactly how your identity, your cultural background, and your lived experiences actively shape the questions you ask and the meanings you find. Your personal identity isn't some hindrance to your research that needs to be scrubbed away. It's actually a fundamental, active ingredient in how you interpret the world.
And why does this matter so much? Because your scholarly interpretation doesn't just sit on a dusty library shelf. Your work influences public discourse, it literally shapes cultural memory and impacts social justice. Every single decision you make and how you frame things can challenge or uphold dominant power structures. If you don't check your assumptions, you run a very real risk of marginalizing alternative voices. Your research circulates out there in society. You have enormous power.
Section 3. Steps to ethical reflexivity.
So how do we handle this immense responsibility safely and ethically? Well, before you even open a book or conduct a single interview or step foot in an archive, you have to look inward and ask yourself, what assumptions guide your reading? What biases are you bringing into the academy with you today?
This brings us to reflexivity. Let's cut through the academic jargon for a second. Reflexivity isn't just some fleeting moment of self-awareness. It's an ongoing, rigorous, methodological, and ethical exercise. It requires you to be critically aware of how your identity influences the research process at literally every single stage. It's a tool that brings depth, humility, and real responsibility to your interpretation.
And we can translate this into a concrete methodology. Step 1. Explicitly identify your own positionality, your biases, and your motivations. Step 2. Examine exactly how those assumptions are informing the specific research questions you choose to ask. Step 3, and this one is absolutely huge, be critically alert to the implications of your vocabulary. The words we use shape understanding and memory, especially for historically underrepresented groups. And finally, Step 4. Continually reflect on your role in meaning-making. It's this endless vital loop of ethical calibration.
Section 4. The Hannah Arendt case.
Let's ground all these abstract concepts in a real-world warning. Hannah Arendt's famous work, Eichmann in Jerusalem, provides one of the most powerful historical examples of how positionality shapes intellectual judgment in profound and sometimes deeply controversial ways.
This is a high-stakes case study in the heavy burden of interpretation.
Let's trace how this happened. It starts with the trial. Arendt travels to report on the trial of Adolf Eichmann, a major organizer of the Holocaust. Next comes the interpretation. She observes them and coins the now famous phrase, the banality of evil, interpreting his horrific actions not as monstrous sadism, but as terrifyingly ordinary, unthinking obedience to a totalitarian system. But look at what happens next, the backlash. This specific interpretive lens provoked a massive public and scholarly debate. A lot of Holocaust survivors felt her account minimized the severity of the crimes and the conscious malice involved. Which leads us to the reckoning. You simply cannot separate Arendt's interpretation from her positionality. She was a German Jewish refugee, a highly trained political theorist, and a witness to history. Her incredibly specific, layered identity drove her to see Eichmann through a very particular theoretical and political lens, generating massive societal ripples.
The core takeaway from the source text really hits the nail on the head. Her experience illustrates that reflexivity is not just self-awareness, but social and political, with real consequences for knowledge and public debate. Arendt's work is a crucial reminder for all of us, for you, to acknowledge and take responsibility for the impact of your perspectives. Your interpretations carry tangible, real-world consequences.
Section 5. Your responsibility as researchers.
All right, now that you understand the mechanics of interpretation, what is your ethical mandate? Simply put, your job is actively preventing marginalization in your research. Think of these points as your absolute non-negotiable boundaries. You must refuse to flatten human complexity through easy generalizations. You absolutely have to avoid exploiting cultures or communities just for your own academic gain. You must ensure marginalized voices are represented with the utmost care. And ultimately, your scholarship needs to work toward epistemic justice and inclusion. You're not just critiquing the world, you're actively tasked with building more just understandings of it.
Because research in the humanities, especially when dealing with historical silencing or injustice, isn't just cold analysis. It can literally be an act of witnessing. It can be an act of restoration. It's this ongoing act of public engagement where you get to bridge the gap between the academy and wider society. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to carry with you today. When you finally enter the field, when you're sitting in the archives or conducting those first interviews, how will your specific, unique perspective shape the histories and communities you choose to study? Remember, your voice matters, your positionality matters, and your ethical responsibility, it begins right now. Thank you for joining this explainer, and welcome to the work.